Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly fascinating geopolitical footprint. We're going to take an objective, data-driven look at Pakistan's strategic positioning and its overall military might. Whether you're studying global defense strategies or just trying to wrap your head around regional South Asian politics, understanding the sheer scale of this nation's capabilities is absolutely essential. So, let's get right into the data. Okay, let's dive into this with a staggering statistic right off the bat. Number 9. Out of all the nations on Earth, Pakistan currently holds the number 9 spot among the world's most powerful militaries. Seriously, think about that for a second. In a global landscape packed with massive superpowers, Pakistan actively maintains a top 10 defense force. But what actually builds that kind of formidable Pakistani military power? Well, here's how we're going to break it all down today. First, we'll cover strategic location and economy. 2, overall military and nuclear power. 3, land, air, and sea forces. 4, geopolitics and regional tensions. And finally, 5, the history of the 4 wars.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, strategic location and economy.
To really understand Pakistan, you have to look at its massive footprint. We're talking about a total area of over 881,000 square kilometers. To put that into perspective, that is roughly twice the size of the US state of California. But the geography is really only half the story, right? The population sits at over 243 million people. And strategically, the location is incredibly attractive, mainly because it's sandwiched right between 2 of the most populous nations on the planet, India to the east and China to the west. Naturally, this kind of placement demands a very strong defensive posture. And supporting that kind of defense requires serious capital. Pakistan dedicates approximately 2% of its GDP annually straight into its defense system. To give you an idea of the economic trajectory based on the data, by late 2003, that GDP was recorded at $1.262 trillion. It's a huge, evolving economic engine, and dedicating 2% of it year after year, that builds immense capability. Moving right along to Section 2, overall military and nuclear power. The massive scale of Pakistan's military manpower is frankly staggering, and this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're talking about. We're looking at a total of 1,495,000 personnel. Breaking that down, you've got 654,000 active troops ready at a moment's notice, another 550,000 in reserve, and 21,000 paramilitary forces. This incredible concentration of personnel actually ranks Pakistan 6th in the world for active military forces, and impressively, first among all Muslim nations. But here's the crucial point. Manpower alone doesn't dictate modern geopolitical power anymore. Nuclear capability does. And there is a highly delicate strategic balance in this specific region. Currently, Pakistan holds 170 nuclear warheads, having developed this capability in the 90s and culminating in 1998. Now, neighboring India holds 164 nuclear warheads, and they achieved their nuclear status a bit earlier, back in 1974. Seeing these figures side by side really underscores the extreme, high-stakes nature of any regional conflict here. Which brings us to Section 3, land, air, and sea forces. Starting with the ground game, there is a massive, absolute emphasis on armored mobility and artillery. And it's not just about the 372 tanks. The armored vehicles alone number an astonishing 5,523. Backing up that frontline armor, they have some serious fire support. We're talking 752 self-propelled artillery pieces, over 3,200 towed artillery, and 602 rocket artillery systems. It is an enormous, highly mobile land force. Looking up at the skies, the aviation numbers are just as robust. The Air Force operates with a massive fleet, ready to assist the nation in literally any situation. Highlighting the combat readiness, they have 387 fighter jets and 90 attack aircraft. They also maintain a huge logistical and training backbone, with 60 transports and 549 trainer aircraft. Oh, and definitely don't miss the rotorcraft. 352 helicopters, which includes 57 dedicated attack helicopters. Finally, rounding out the triad is Pakistan's advanced naval force. While it might be a bit less discussed than the land borders, this force composition is highly diverse. They operate 8 submarines, 2 destroyers, and a wide defensive net of 69 patrol vessels. You add to that the logistical backbone, 9 freighters, 7 rover ships, 4 tanker fleets, and 3 minesweepers, and you have a navy that's fully capable of projecting power and protecting crucial maritime interests. Let's shift gears a bit for Section 4, Geopolitics and Regional Tensions. On the global stage, Pakistan has cultivated a network of some incredibly strong, highly beneficial alliances. We're talking deep ties with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, and of course their massive neighbor China. These relationships provide immense strategic and economic benefits. However, all of this is heavily offset by the fraught relationship with its neighbor, India. These ongoing tensions are incredibly costly, causing significant political and economic damage, which in turn demands that massive military upkeep we just talked about.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the core of this regional tension, which centers squarely on the Kashmir issue. Notice the distinct terminology used by both sides for the exact same disputed region. From the Pakistani perspective, it is termed Indian occupied territory. Conversely, the Indian viewpoint labels the other portion as Pakistani occupied area. The source material points out that because the governments do not actually discuss the wishes of the Kashmiri people themselves, this deep-seated issue remains entirely unresolved to this day. And that leads us right into our final part, Section 5, History of the Four Wars. Let's move to and see how this builds, because this conflict started almost immediately upon independence, fundamentally shaping the history of Pakistan. The First Kashmir War erupted in 1947 over who rightfully owned the region. Fast forward a bit to 1965, the Second Kashmir War breaks out, yet the issue stays deadlocked. Then, 1971 marks a massive shift. The Third War actually alters the map completely, resulting in Pakistan dividing into two parts, and the new independent nation of Bangladesh forms. Finally, in 1999, we see the Fourth War at Kargil, a truly tragic conflict where many soldiers from both sides sacrificed their lives. So it's four major wars, underscoring a long, heavily armed history.
Which brings us to our final thought for today. We've seen the 243 million people, the massive land forces, the nuclear arsenals, and a history of repeated conflict over contested land. So the question we have to ask ourselves now is this: with this constantly expanding military might sitting right alongside completely unresolved historical borders, what does the future actually hold for South Asian diplomacy? Will we see a breakthrough, or will the ninth most powerful military in the world remain on high alert? Thank you so much for walking through this data with me today. Keep asking questions, keep looking at the facts, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.